All right, hello and welcome to Camel Finance. I'm your boy Camel, and as per yesterday's video, I have made significant changes. They should not be a surprise to you if you were paying attention in yesterday's video, and of course if you watched yesterday's video. Today I'm mostly going to focus on charts because I've made significant changes, but I want to stop and say we've had a bunch of new subscribers, so thank you to you guys. Welcome to the new subscribers. To the existing subscribers, welcome back, and thank you for all the support. This channel is really humbling to have, and the community and everyone involved is absolutely fantastic. Of course, special shout out to the OGs and the triple OGs. You know who you are, I know who you are, and as we approach 2k subs, of course, we will do this thing we do every 1,000 subs, which is give the shout outs and pay homage to the triple OGs and the OGs. I wanted to take this opportunity, I do this every now and again, to remind myself and remind my viewers exactly what I do this for and why I do this. The point of this channel for me is to try to set the best possible YouTube standard for YouTube traders and crypto influencers. There are an awful lot of them out there that will show you altcoins and promise you 1,000x returns if you just buy their bag off them. There's also an awful lot of YouTube traders out there that for some reason they're pro traders, but they won't give you any information for free, right? They need you to buy a $1,000 course, or they're very good at telling you after the fact that they made profit. They're very good at showing you screenshots of open profit, but they're not very good at calling their trades out ahead of time, telling you the day they enter them, showing you where their stop loss are, showing you exactly when they're wrong. How often do you see a YouTube trader hold their hands up and say, I was stopped out? Okay, I personally never see that. How often do you see people do TA like this, right? I call this like the hindsight or the retrospective TA. People pull up a chart. This is Bitcoin, right? They pull up a chart and they scroll all the way back like a few years and they go, so as you can see, guys, we made a high of $19,817. And then what did we do? We came down all the way to $6,000. And then what did we do? We broke down to 3K, guys, only to pump all the way back up to 14K, guys. Only to then, what did we do, guys? We traded sideways, right? C19 plunge. Anyone can do that. How is that adding value? Okay, seriously, we need to start raising the bar on YouTube, okay? Anyone can do that. It's as if they think you can't read. So this is what I do this for. I try to set the highest possible standard on YouTube in the hope that people will start to be able to tell the difference between what real trading looks like versus what YouTube traders claim trading to look like. And so this leads in nicely with what I'm about to do with the charts. When I'm hitting the trades, you can sit there and see these long positions with loads of open profit, and you can see me close them on trendline breakdowns. That's all fantastic. But it's not all like that. It's not all sunshine and rainbows in the trading world. There are times when I have to pay stop losses. There are times when I make errors. And as the realest trader on YouTube, trying to set the highest possible standard on YouTube for YouTube traders, I need to show you when I'm cutting positions. I need to show you when I'm positioned wrong, when I'm getting out the way of the market. And so that's what the focus of today is going to be on. For those of you that like to show a little bit of extra support, there's going to be a once a week video added to the members. Since I'm getting a bunch of requests to go through more and more charts separately, I know a bunch of people aren't going to want to sit there and just look at a bunch of, I don't know, uranium stocks or whatever. So that's going to be moved into the member section. And of course, everything that you're used to getting from this channel for free, you will continue to get for free. That will always be the case. So with that said, let's continue to uphold the highest standard on YouTube. Let's continue to give away this information for free. Let's continue not to shill altcoins or sell courses. And let me show you what trading looks like in the real world when it's not necessarily going your way. So I said yesterday via Twitter, look, Bitcoin rejection at resistance tells me the best move here is to wait for the next cycle low, the 60-day cycle low, which is due inside of this window, 15th to the 27th of October. Then I'll be looking to load up and I'll be looking to add miners as well. We also have a stock cycle low due between the 12th and the 18th of October. So I would think these two probably coincide. I would think the Bitcoin cycle low is probably going to line up somewhere in the 17th of October neighborhood. And this is when I'll be loading back up on stocks as well. And I still believe that the year-end rally to new all-time highs is going to be epic. I had one or two people say to me yesterday that they feel like they wish they'd found the channel sooner so they could have caught more pumps or whatever. But let me assure you, okay, like I said in yesterday's video, there's a time to be in the market. There's a time to be out the market. I believe that is now. And there's a time to go fishing. And that time to go fishing is the end of this year, okay? So we're going to be out the market for a few weeks. Then we're going to be heavily in the market. And then we're going to go fishing and let the market give us what the market wants to give us into the end of the year. We are still holding above this upward sloping pink support line, and we have not yet broken down. We need to see this break down if we're going to get this big risk on moment. But as I've been saying, since the euro dollar, the euro makes up, remember, somewhere around 58% of the Dixie basket. So until this is going to break out, then the dollar is going to continue to be a problem child. We also need to see the yields put in a top and roll over. Now, is this that deviation that my red squiggle highlights for the 10-year yield? Possibly. But if this is going to continue to run, then again, in the short term, we're going to be under pressure for risk assets. A bunch of people were asking me to cover TLT. So here it is. I'll be honest, I'm not really sure now is the time for TLT. Let me take this off log so we can see what's really going on. So I'm not really sure TLT is for me. A lot of people are getting excited by this, but I think if we're objective as possible, then we just set a new low, okay? And a lot of people like to say, yeah, wow, now's a perfect dip buying opportunity. Maybe, okay? But we had this big range. I said in green, this would be a recession trade trigger if it was to show up. And we actually went the other way. So this has followed my red squiggle really, really surprisingly nicely. I don't see why this would just all of a sudden turn around and start blasting off. Now, you do you, of course. I personally am not interested in the slightest in TLT until it at least gets back inside of this yellow channel. Now, once it gets back inside of that yellow channel, there's nothing to say that it's not just going to chop around in here for many, many more months, okay? So me personally, I'm not super interested in TLT until it starts to at least make a trend change. It would at least need to break out of this before I even remotely started to get excited. So I will come back. There will be a time for TLT, but I personally, at least for me, now is not the time. Okay, now is not the time, in my opinion. So as per yesterday's video, I was talking about cutting these positions and getting out the way of the market. That is, of course, exactly what I've done. So we are no longer long for the S&P 500. Now, is it possible that I got shaken out and we're just going to see a massive reversal, something like this, and then go again? Yes, of course it is. But like I said, think there's a time to be in the market and a time to be out the market. Right now, I would say we've got this cycle ahead of us, right? We're only about halfway through it. This is likely the day 10 high. And therefore, even if we get a counter trend bounce, I still expect this thing to roll over and undercut this low, end up undercutting the prior cycle low into that next daily cycle low. And out of that daily cycle low, I think we have a really high probability trade setup. So I'm not at all interested until we get to this cycle low. Like I said, there's a time to be in the market. There's a time to be out the market. I believe this is a time to be out the market. Now, if I'm flat out wrong about this and the market bounces up here and then drops into that cycle low, it's fine because it's the exact same trade, just from slightly higher up. And then that sets us up very, very nicely for a year-end rally. So for now, like I said, I'm out of the way of the S&P 500. I cut this trade as soon as the market opened and I'm out of the way. And that's fine. Patience is the key until we find that next cycle low. And then I think we've got plenty of upside rally ahead of us. It's the same deal for the NASDAQ. So again, I just got completely out of the way of this trade. Now, is this just a touch of support? Quite possibly. But there's an awful lot of work to do here. And I don't really see a scenario where we just do this. Okay, even if we did, then we'll get that pullback. We'll buy the pullback and we'll go again. But it seems to me like there's an awful lot of work to do here. And we could even potentially be about to lose this trend line, find that cycle low, and then we'll repair out of here. So either way, I'm out of the way of this market. This shouldn't be a surprise to you if you saw this yesterday. And there will come a time as we find that cycle low somewhere around the 16th, 17th of October. There will come a time that we'll get a setup. Maybe what we do is bounce here somewhere like this, roll over and undercut, something like this, and then break out, at which point we will be able to set a trend line, something like this, and by the breakout, something like this, okay? So this is how I see it. I think the upside year-end rally is going to be massive. But like I said, for now, we are completely out of this market. We're standing out of the way. And worst case scenario, this was a shakeout that I got shaken out on. We move higher, drop into that cycle low and go. So the market has spoken, though. We've lost this upward sloping yellow support line. Just like in the S&P 500, we lost the blue upward sloping support line. All of this, to me, speaks to us needing much more consolidation into that daily cycle low, where we also will mark it as the weekly cycle low. And from there, we'll move higher. A subtle tell to look for is if the ultimate low here doesn't actually significantly undercut this one. If this forms a double bottom and we rally up sharply and then we continue to hold the prior cycle low into that daily cycle low, that will be even more bullish than the scenario I've got drawn here in my squiggle. But like I said, I'm out of the market, I'm out the way, and there will be a time to get back in about 2 to 3 weeks. And then once we're in, there'll be a time to go fishing as we just let the profit run into the end of the year. Dow Jones as well. As soon as we lost this range yesterday, again, shouldn't be a surprise if you watched yesterday's video, I got out of the way of this trade. We have a clear trend line here for which a breakout signal can come from. So if we get back above this downward sloping red resistance line, if we can recover this upward sloping pink resistance line, support line, then something like this is undeniably bullish, right? Something like this is undeniably bullish, and we can take the long on the breakout. But there's nothing to say that this isn't what's coming next. So again, I want to be out of the way of the market. Don't want to be giving back huge amounts of profit. It's been a fantastic year, and I want to keep it that way. So I'm out of the way of this as well. Here's the Russell 2K. Now, a bunch of you like this. I've been saying that if we were to move up here and break out, that could certainly be a long. But I also think there's a good chance, as the other markets find their cycle lows, that we will get something more like this occur. So if we get a touch of this upward sloping blue support line and a breakout of the downward sloping pink resistance line, I'm going to get rid of this because it's getting a bit messy. Something like this, I would be interested in going long here. We get a really nice tight stop, and we'll see what can happen from there. So consider this a call out. I'm still pushing this FTSE 100 trade. So until we close daily candles back below the yellow downward sloping resistance line, then we'll keep pushing this long, and it's absolutely valid. Here's Apple, possibly going to continue to follow this squiggle, isn't it? So not too far from this. Maybe we've got to set a new low and then break out. But at some point, as we find that cycle low for the S&P 500, we'll probably start to see Apple continue to be a leader and break out again. And people were asking me to cover Tesla. So downward sloping purple resistance line, like I've been saying, until we get above that, then there's no trade from me. We did pretty well at taking Tesla trades multiple times through this year and late last year. And this is how I see it, okay? So until we get above this downward sloping purple resistance line, I can't really entertain longs, but get above that, and I certainly will be a breakout trade buyer in this neighborhood. So that pretty much concludes the stock portion of this. As you can see, I'm just out the way. Now, to be really clear here, out the way of the market, waiting for cycle lows for the S&P 500, or trend line breaks for this downward sloping red resistance line, okay? Until we get a breakout or a cycle low, then we really can't say the thing is bullish, and we can only expect lower lows for the stock market. For the NASDAQ, it's going to basically follow the S&P 500. So exactly the same template applies there. There's plenty of work to do, and you could arguably redraw this trend line, this blue one at the top, and therefore a breakout might not be coming for some time. Okay, so we could get a lot of chop around in no man's land, assuming we don't set this secondary trend line here. There could be a lot of chop over the next 3 to 4 weeks before the NASDAQ gets going again. In the most bullish scenario, it rockets up here, pulls back, and we're a dip buyer in that environment. And the Dow has lost critical support, hasn't it? So again, break out this downward sloping red resistance line. That is a long trigger because that is a structural change in the market. But for now, this was massive resistance, breakout, double retest, now below it. So again, it's time to get out of the way. The market has spoken. So I hope that's clear for the stocks. I also think the read on Bitcoin is pretty clear as well, right? We got the rejection at resistance, didn't we? At the blue downward sloping resistance line, we did not break out. We are rejected. So given where we are in the cycle, remember the 60-day cycle gives us context for Bitcoin. It seems most reasonable that this is what we're going to do. And I wouldn't be surprised if when we get into this timing window here, we undercut this on a wick and then go. So I'm kind of expecting to see something like that out of that 60-day cycle low. I am more than happy to add longs, and I think this will be a really high probability setup. But unfortunately, there is probably a lot more chop in the meantime to come in line with this orange fractal that I've got. Yesterday, I was talking about these crypto-related equity positions. I've moved the stop up to here. So all the while we're not stopped out, then we'll continue to push the longs. But if this is stopped out, then we're just going to have to go to a plan B. We're just going to have to sit on the sides and wait for the market to repair itself. And then there'll be a time to repeat this process all over again, won't there? You can see with MicroStrategy, just about in there. So again, the stops for the first two positions are moved up under here. All the while we're above, we'll continue to push the longs. But if this is stopped out, then we'll reset the whole thing. There's a really, really nice trend line. I'm going to get rid of this one. There's a really, really nice trend line here, isn't it? This is clearly being very, very well respected, this downward sloping red one. So at some point, it will break out of there, and then we can start to repair and rebuild these positions again. Riot was stopped yesterday, so we'll get rid of this. We will move this to the next line of repair, and we'll take it from there, right? There's nothing else we can do. We've got technical damage at this point. So this is the range break, clearly below that. Upward sloping blue support line, clearly below that. I'm going to get rid of these lines because this chart is getting a little bit messy. Don't need this, don't need this, don't need this. That's all we need, right? We've got this trend line, and there's a lot of work to do here. We could certainly see much lower Riot prices. So get back above this range breakout, and we can start to entertain repairs. But for now, I just want to get out of the way of this market because there's nothing to say that this isn't coming all the way back down at the lows. Of course, as it does, that will also present a really nice entry. We'll be able to draw a trend line and get long down here. But is that coming or isn't it? That is anybody's guess. Once we find the 60-day cycle low for Bitcoin, it will probably be a nice setup to add these positions back. And of course, as I always do, you will see me do that on the channel. Marathon, if I move this red squiggle out the way, you can see we are clearly holding this big range. This is a very key level. So all the while we're above this, then we can continue to push the first trade. And if we can break out of this downward sloping red resistance line, we can even add a second long. So no change out of Marathon, stop to break even, and we'll see what the market can give. It needs to hold this level, otherwise that opens up a retest of the lows. But again, if it gets all the way down there, then that's not the end of the world, right? Because it will give us a opportunity to extend this trend line and buy the breakout from much lower down. So overall, as you can see, still pushing some positions, the ones that I can. Stops have been moved up to mitigate damage and downside. I'm out the way of the stock market, waiting for a clear high probability setup. And as I said in here, we know that the cycle low for Bitcoin is due somewhere in this neighborhood, right? We also know that the early part of this neighborhood would see us find a cycle low in time for the stock market to find its cycle low. The reason this next cycle low is so significant for the stock market is we can mark it as a weekly cycle low. This will need moving out. And this should set up a massive rally into the year end. So patience, capital preservation here are the keys. For the next few weeks, I expect mostly for us to chop around. I expect mostly for me to be repeating myself. Okay, most of the time I'm going to be saying, yeah, we're still doing this. We're still waiting for that cycle low. And once we get to the cycle low, we'll load back up. And it's going to be the same for Bitcoin, right? Unless we lose this 25K level, this range break, then the thing is bullish. The thing is still a bottom formation that's been flipped to support. It's consolidating before it moves higher. That's just the read. That's how it is. I cannot possibly be bearish until we lose this range break in yellow. And unless we actually convincingly break down below it, then this is what's going to happen, right? We're going to find that cycle low and then we're going to come blasting out of here into the end of the year. But unfortunately, I'm not really going to have anything else to report unless we break down out of this, right? So you're going to see me just continuously say, yep, still getting towards that 17th, 18th of October timeframe, still trying to find that 60-day cycle low. And then once we find it, like I said, we can get long, we can add more positions back. We will see how many of these end up getting stopped out. There's always the chance that, say for MicroStrategy, right, there's always a chance that this fires back up here somewhere and we end up adding even more positions going into this parabola in the end of the year. Nobody knows, including me, least of all me, okay? Nobody knows. The only thing I know is that I don't know, but this is the read. And like I said, waiting for that 60-day cycle low for Bitcoin, waiting for the 40-day cycle low for the S&P. Once we get there, we should have nothing but upside into the end of the year for both the stock market and for Bitcoin. We're also likely going to see the yields come off. We're going to see the dollar roll over as that euro dollar breaks out and pressures the dollar. So a few weeks of patience and the opportunity is going to be there to make serious gains into the end of the year. I keep forgetting oil for some reason. It's because I haven't covered it in a while, but still pushing this short, right? We got the breakdown, retest of the upward sloping support line, which is now resistance, looking for that resumption lower. And I think if we can get something like this red squiggle play out, we can add to the short and move the stops down on a break of this secondary upward sloping pink support line once this gets violated. And then I think it's going to get really ugly for oil really, really quickly. So that is to be determined. That is an absolutely contrarian call at the moment. Everyone thinks oil is going to run triple digits, and it might. But I personally don't see it this way. That's why I'm short oil. So I'm going to continue to push this short. The last thing I wanted to cover, which I haven't covered in a while, is the miners. Look at these miners, right? We've got this huge setup playing out, this huge macro setup, which is probably going to trigger into next year. And we've got a shorter term setup that wants the setup as well here, something like this, right? Another plunge down and then a go. So there's going to be some minor trades coming out of this channel, but I don't think the time is yet. I think we've got to let some more time unfold. We've got to let the stock market do its thing, find its lows and move to the highs. And then I think minor positions are going to be a big focus of this channel. So there you have it. Out of the market for the most part, still pushing certain positions where it's justifiable to do so. As I said, we're going to be waiting for cycle lows and they're about 3 weeks away. So for 3 weeks, it's just time to chill, preserve capital, not try to force anything, not try to get FOMO, not try to be cute with anything or be cute with our positioning. Let's just preserve the capital, wait for the cycle lows. And this is what we do. Okay, this is what we do. We wait for the cycle lows and we buy the thing. And it's as simple as that. So let's not overcomplicate it. I hope you found value here today. I hope you're doing well in life. And I hope you enjoy your weekend. In the meantime, take care from me. All the best. Cheers. Bye.